experience, an American icon, and Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga is the only place you'll find their new 2018 line. Are you ready to ride? Join the club. Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign, 153 and Amnicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th, at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Nooga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours with Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nooga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nooga Radio.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people in the city of Chattanooga. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week, y'all. Y'all know what it is. Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show, and I'm taking it from the streets to City Hall, from City Hall, can't leave out the police department, to the mayor's office, from the valley low to the mountaintop, giving you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on here in the city of Chattanooga. Happy Friday to you. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Oh, man, y'all know what it is. Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show, Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. That's right. Call in as always the same. It's 800-8949, 800-8949 if you want to chop it up with me about today's topic, which is very, very important, right? And as always, I'm streaming live on Facebook. So if you can't call in and you feel like dropping a comment, wave like Constance Giles. Hey, Constance. And let me know that you're tuning in, or drop a comment about what it is that we're talking about. Y'all know what it is. It's Know Your Rights Fridays. And today, we're covering the most controversial amendment in the Bill of Rights, which is the Second Amendment. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We're talking about it, the Second Amendment. And y'all probably going to get something out of me that you just didn't intend, but that's okay. Because I'm different. I don't think like everybody else. I think in and of myself, and I encourage you to do the same. If y'all remember being a child, if you're around my age, I'm 30, and you watch Saturday cartoons with Genie, remember Genie would start off, great men think alike, and then he'd say, no way, great minds think for themselves. Yes. And so today I kind of want to start off with a quote from, it's a quote that is actually it's a line out of a song of mine that's a very, very favorite of mine by Erykah Badu, which says, I picks my friends like I picks my fruit. My granny taught me that when I was only a youth. I don't walk around trying to be what I'm not. I don't waste my time trying to get what you got. I work at pleasing me because I can't please you. And that's why I do what I do. My soul flies free like a willow tree. Dewey. If you don't want to be down with me, you don't want to pick from my apple tree. If you don't want to be down with me, that's cool. You just don't want to pick from my apple tree. Oh, man, let's get into it. The Second Amendment. What does the Second Amendment say, and why do we need to talk about this? Well, if we tuned in yesterday, which I hope you did, if you didn't, please go back to the Nooga Radio 92.7 FM page and look at the conversation that I had with you guys on yesterday. And we talked about, I dove into Bacon's Rebellion again, because the question that I left you guys, and I hope you thought about it, you listened to the show on yesterday, is, once we've done all we can as a people, the people with the power, we've consistently gone to the mayor, the county commissioner, the city mayor or the county commissioners, and the city council. When we've gone to our representatives here on a local level, asking, demanding, almost sometimes begging and pleading for them to step in and to do what they often should already have the power. They already got the power to do it. They should have the know-how to do it. They should have the fortitude and the backbone to do it. If they don't do what we tell them to do, Because really, we shouldn't even be asking. I shouldn't have to ask the people who represent me on a daily basis to do what they're supposed to do. I shouldn't have to beg. That's like you going to work and the employer begging you to do your job. Does that sound ridiculous? Yes. It's ridiculous for the person who is hired to be begged to do what they were hired to do. That's insane. And yet, we have allowed people to not only not teach us or strip us of the rights that we have, first given by God, and second, given by the Constitution within a republic, because again, this is not a democracy, which is a mob rule. This is a constitutional republic that we live in. But also, we have been terrified or forced to be terrified to assert the rights that we have. Oh, man. And then on top of it all, we get force-fed ideologies which are not even in the best interest of the people. And if you're a liberal or progressive, you're probably going to be offended by what I'm going to say today. And that's cool. Because I don't fit in particular boxes. I'm just a person that does not subscribe to group thought, group think. I've never really been interested in trying to fit in with people. I get in where I fit in. And that is when people accept me for who I am, I'm cool. And if they don't, well, there's words for that, but I can't say it on the radio. I am who I am, and I believe what I believe. And until I get firm information, which I consider that is in the best interest of the people, I will not and do not change. I can't. Because I look and I pick apart information on a daily basis. And often, whether it's coming from Republicans or Democrats or progressives, sometimes socialists, I see an underlying foundation of trying to really strip the people of power and have them be force-fed to give up their power on a daily basis and be helpless. And I'm not in the business of trying to encourage you, your family, your household, and your community to be helpless, because you are not. And the Second Amendment is one of the only things, one of the foundational things when we've done all that we can and we're standing up against a tyrannical government and constitutional binding, which I told you yesterday from Thomas Jefferson, says, trust no more in man, no more confidence in man, but bind him for mischief by the chains of the Constitution. The Constitution is the chains that binds man. And have we not for hundreds of years had confidence in man, man of all colors, man of all kinds, to do what is right by the people, and still the people suffer? Y'all don't want to get real with me. It's okay. It's okay. We've had white leaders and black leaders, old and young, rich, and some who've come from impoverished neighborhoods, and still the people suffer. Trust no more in man, but by the words that is already written, which do not even give the power really to men. Often what is written in the Constitution speaks directly to the people and what the people should do when they have trusted in man and still their needs are not satisfied. That is the power of the Constitution. And so for somebody to tell me that I need to turn in my guns, I'm sorry. Is gun violence something that I'm totally against? Absolutely. But gun violence is the symptom of a disease that we do not talk about. And then depending upon the culture or the people or the community that we're talking about, the disease is different. Because interestingly enough, that's why we got to have a conversation. We're going to talk about gun violence today because I got to lay the case for you. Because gun violence is not an excuse for you to give up your weapons. And let me be very, very clear. Let me be clear. Okay? Let me be extremely clear. Now, people say that the citizen doesn't need a high-powered rifle, doesn't need weapons such as an AR-15 or any other weapons such as that. Well, let me ask you a question, and if you feel brave enough to call in and talk to me about it, 800-8949. But if we find that often, especially in particular in poor communities and communities of color, that we are dealing with over-policing, as well as dealing with police who have militarized weapons, what fight back power, or what power do we have in the form of weaponry if we handed over a weapon that would match their weapons in power? What means of protecting ourselves do we have? Are we supposed to throw rocks at people with high-powered military weapons? That's what we're supposed to do? I'm asking a question. And then let's be super real about it. When we talk about guns being taken from folks in the first place, they're not going to go into communities that aren't of color anyway and take those guns. Why? Because there are plenty of white people who would have you take their guns from their cold, dead hands before they give up their Second Amendment right. And why is that? You see, I think the part of the problem is we don't look at gun violence and we don't contextualize it in today's time. And then also, hold on, caller, just a second. We don't go back. We try to look at the Constitution from a modern day perspective instead of understanding the mind of the people who wrote it back then. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Mr. Constitution checking in.
Good morning.
During Katrina, they rounded the poorest people up into a stadium, and the conditions were atrocious, and they wouldn't let them leave at gunpoint. And the suburbs with the lily white people, their guns were being confiscated door to door by the police. An FBI agent told me in 1979, we can come and collect your guns, and Americans are too coward to fight back. I have the tape. He actually said that, and that's what they believe. Now, there's the organized and the unorganized militia under the Second Amendment. The organized militia is comprised of able-bodied citizens that have no allegiance to the president whatsoever, but to the governor. The unorganized militia is every able-bodied male 18 to 54 that must have a gun and ammunition for his weapon. And the militias must have the same weapons as the government to protect themselves from the government. The Second Amendment was installed to protect the county and the state from the federal government and from the state government. And it comes from Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, which existed prior to the Second Amendment, which states the right of the citizen to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. And that is still in Article 1, Section 21, where gun ownership can't be questioned. And that's why the NRA are a big bunch of phonies. They've been taken over. They were taken over in 1976. They are not a pro-individual right to bear arms organization. Therefore, hunting Bambi.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's Mr. Constitution chopping it up with us today. And we got to look at it, good people. The reality is that we are dealing with an increased, as Mr. Constitution would say, occupier state, where we have the police, as well as we have tyrannical government, right? Because when I look at story after story after story after story that comes out, I consistently see on a daily basis, I pick apart a story, and often it doesn't even matter what the color of the person is. I see constitutional rights being infringed upon all the time. And the question that we have to ask ourselves is a big question. It's not why do people have to have guns and use them, but who do we need to use them against? And further, if we have gun violence, what are the reasons for the violence? If you look in the communities that are poor and impoverished, and I've talked about it on the show before, they've done this study with laboratory mice. You put mice in a confined space, you strip them of food and water, you make lots of noise, they will turn into cannibals and eat one another. This has been done with mice. And so if you think the basis of often the violence in impoverished communities is a lack of resources, of course you're going to steal for food if you don't have any. Is it a crime stealing for food when you don't have any? If you got to go 30 minutes to the closest grocery store, is it a crime to really, when we really look at it, somebody wrote on paper that it's a crime. Is it a crime to be hungry in America? Questions like this are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. Is it a crime to be poor? Is it a crime? Have we made being impoverished a crime? And then to further take advantage of those poor and impoverished people already, we're going to strip them of their right to protect themselves. Because you're not going to go into the affluent neighborhoods who really can't afford, not only can they afford weaponry, but then they can afford tax stamps. If you don't know what that is, look it up. A tax stamp, which means that you can get silencers and all sorts of kind of weaponry that normally you couldn't even buy going into a gun store or a gun show. Yeah. They're not going to go into affluent neighborhoods and try to take people's weapons. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And let's be super real. Patriotism in the eyes of America it really depends upon the citizen saying that he's a patriot. A white man who has 1 million guns and declares that he's a patriot, he'll have 1 million Instagram followers. He'll get mad love and mad respect, right? All he has to do is take a picture with the flag and all his guns laid out and take pictures of him holding the guns and cleaning the guns, and everybody hurrahs him. You take the same spirit, just change the face, make it an African-American man or make it a Hispanic man. I guarantee you he's going to get 1 million questions as to why does he have all these guns? What is he using them for? Somebody in the comments is going to automatically assume that he's a gang member. Let's be real, folks. Come on. Come on. The reality is that so when we look at Bacon's rebellion, I can't help but go back. One of the things that made it important for there to be a division in people who are just impoverished in general, regardless of color, was so that they just would not be able to work together. They can't work together. Because if they work together, they can run people in the government off that are not doing their job, and then they can take siege of the city. We've done this before. That's a dangerous thing, right? Some people would say, oh my God, that's pandemonium. No, pandemonium to me, anarchy to me, is coming to work, coming to the radio station and seeing poor people on the way here asking for food and water. That's pandemonium to me. Meanwhile, we're giving businesses who have yet to pay us any money back millions and millions of dollars in tax breaks. To me, that's pandemonium. You mean to tell me we're starving people? We're ensuring that people are homeless because we sure as heck aren't building buildings that is affordable for people to live in. I look at all these nice buildings and y'all, I question who can afford it. Who can afford these nice buildings? These $2,000 a month condominiums. Who can afford this stuff? But we got poor people everywhere. Oh, it does something to me, y'all. I'm telling you, it grates at my spirit. And then I go down to the city council meeting, and I'm telling you, I'm probably never going to forget this unless I get Alzheimer's, which I hope never happens. To see a woman get up in front of the council, she deserved to be punched in the face. And I'm not even a violent person like that. For her to get up and ask the council to not extend tax dollars, which should be going into the communities in the first place, to stop a halfway house from expanding their services of poor and impoverished and drug-addicted people, because they too deserve a second chance at life. They too deserve a hand up in life. They too deserve an investment in life, right? To stop that because she was afraid that they would make the neighborhood look bad. And to not have the city council not only laugh at this woman, but I don't know if I could be a city council person and hold my mule. I'd be like, lady, are you crazy? If you want something done about the people in your neighborhood, you feed them. How about that? If you're listening, I don't even remember the lady's name. If you're listening, ma'am, how about you feed them? Huh? Isn't that what you're supposed to do anyways? Take care of your neighbor? How about you feed them? You go out there, you give them water, something to drink, something to eat. Come on. And then we really allow this garbage to be sold to the poor people. So not only can they be taken advantage of, but they can't have the power to fight back. I see through it. It's game to me. I see straight through it. Because the reality is even if you look at the FBI numbers, crime is down in the Black community as far as Black people killing Black people. It gets sensationalized a lot in places like Chicago or maybe New Orleans. But crime is actually down in the Black community. It's more white people killing white people by FBI statistics. Come on, y'all. And I'm sure if I looked at where this is happening, I'm sure even for white people, it's a lack of resources, a lack of opportunity, a lack of investment. We got to be real. We're talking about the Second Amendment here on the Marie Mott Show. And I'm not talking about it from the perspective of a Democrat or a progressive or anybody in a box. I'm just talking about it as a constitutional citizen, a person who believes in constitutional rights. And you know what? You deserve to protect yourself. Stay tuned for the second half of the segment.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Democratic candidate Steve Foster is running against Republican Tom Graves from behind bars. He's sentenced to 6 months in jail for drunk driving. Foster asked to be let go on bond during his appeal. Catoosa County commissioners plan to build their own fire station in town, but ran into one problem at Wednesday's commission meeting. They don't know where to put it. Fire Station 2 could be rebuilt, but Commission Chairman Steve Henry has his doubts. For now, the planning is on the back burner, but commissioners hope to get it done soon. And cops say Aisha Jones executed the victim on Vance. 52-year-old Norman Sullivan was murdered in his apartment, shot multiple times. Cops say Jones was the one who finished him off. She's charged with multiple charges, including attempted murder and criminal homicide. Investigators say there were multiple witnesses to the murder who came forward to testify. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick and money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nooga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nooga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Nuga Radio 92.7.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Heating up out there for your afternoon with some sunshine. Can't rule out a stray shower storm. Most of us, though, staying dry. Highs up around 90 tonight. Becoming fair, muggy. Lows only around 70. For Saturday, 88 to 90. An isolated afternoon shower storm. More likely later Sunday. Come to Larry's world-famous buffet in Trenton for some of the finest home-style cooking around. Larry also offers catering. Open Thursdays through Sundays. That's Larry's, just off 559 in Trenton. And I'm Sourcine 12, Chief Meteorologist Badger 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
We're talking about it. The Second Amendment, the right to have a militia for the necessary security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall never be infringed upon my peers. And why is that? Because even then, our founding fathers found themselves constantly being whipped by people who are loyalists to the crown, people who are loyalists to the king. And even then, right? Even then, they saw into the future that we were going to be dealing with these same problems. And I think Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and all of the other gentlemen who really, really pushed for the Constitution to be written and really had a difficult time doing it, I think they understood even then, in the 1700s, I think they understood people. I think they understood that people rarely change. People rarely change. And that eventually we were just going to see these problems in a modern way. But there was always going to be people who were pushing back on the individual freedoms and liberties of the citizens and the right for them to have all of the power. And so I know I've talked about it before, but this is also why it's important, right? And a beautiful lady by the name of Miss Adara, I had a conversation with her the other day, and she said something that very rarely do I hear white people say. She said, you know, the victors of history are the people who get to write it. And I know Mr. Mike Steele, Mr. Constitution, talks about it all the time. History is his story. And who is his? Often the people who don't want the people who actually went through these things to tell the truth about what happens. It's just like people who look at the Black Panther Party. And this is why I got upset with a man at the city council meeting, because people are always asking for the evidence of why Black people feel a certain way, why people of color in general are very slow to trust white people, and why it's necessary for me to do this work. We're socialized that way. We're socialized to think that Black and Hispanic people are nothing more than gang members, that Italians are nothing more than mobsters. We're socialized to never work together, to always be suspicious of the other person, right? And then we have to deal with the reality for the listener who may happen to be white. You know, it's not your fault because you didn't write history you yourself. Huh? But the fact that often, not only is our history not told for various peoples of color, but often when it is, it's told in a means of defeat or disrespect. So when you look at, and I want you to write this down, if you listen, I don't care what color you are, COINTELPRO, where the FBI, under the leadership of J. Edgar Hoover, COINTELPRO, targeted J. Edgar Hoover, not only through the FBI, but also through local police departments all across the nation, set up assassinations of people like Fred Hampton Sr., Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X. Yeah. They targeted the Black Panther Party, which often people look at as, well, you know, it's just Black people with guns, and that's a dangerous thing. But if you ever watch documentaries about the Black Panther Party, the guns were just the means of protecting the people. They didn't have guns alone. If you look at the 10-point program that the Black Panther Party had, it was a self-determination, a right to self-determination, which the Constitution is all about, really. The right of the people to self-determine their future and to secure their own future without their rights being infringed upon. That is the power of the Constitution. Their own 10-point program, which included constitutional law. They would show up with weapons, but they also knew the law. Bobby Seale talks about it a lot. He'd show up. He'd have his rifle or shotgun. And he talks about it quite often. I would follow police because I always wanted to ensure that they weren't bothering the people. We police the police. And that's a question that I want you guys to ask. Who police the police? Who will police them? Because they're out of control. I mean, if we look at the last 2 to 3 months in the city of Chattanooga, we've had problem after problem after problem after problem, from rape to physical abuse. When we look at the case of Angela Moore, covering up of evidence, fabricating of evidence, disappearing of evidence. We've seen all sorts of kind of things happening with the police department. Them shooting the lady in Saudi Daisy through her windshield. But at the same time, letting their officers who participated in drinking under the influence go free and have reduced bail by $550,000. Who protects the people? You know, why is it that there's a targeting of poor people to go to jail, to go to prison, and then in particular to become felons, so they cease to have the right to even bear these arms? Do you see how it works? And so we have to ask the question, and I know it's tough, but I'm going to say it anyway. For my people of color and my poor people, a lot of us have bought into the progressive democratic charisma in our community. We've bought into, and it's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you will let Democrats and progressives sell you the ideology that you need to trade in your means of protecting yourself and your community and your family, in the event you have an instance like Mr. Craddock, where a person that is pretending to be an officer has a weapon himself and is threatening to kick down your door and harm you, what do? How do you fight? I'm just asking the people, because we continue to be pushed into a corner, and I'm not into the business of being helpless. If I got claws, I'm gonna fight back. We got to fight back. And how? Are we willing to? Do we just have this right to say that we have it and never use it? I'm just asking. If you want to chop it up with me, 800-8949. But the kicker is that we buy into this progressive Democratic type jargon, charisma, ideology from the same people, often who have power in the most impoverished communities, which are often of color. You look at y'all. I know some of you out there, if you have not, if you got Netflix, or you got a cousin or auntie that has Netflix, borrow their password. I'm giving you permission. Look at the documentary called The 13th, where we see, as much as people talk about Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton locked up more Black people than the both of them. We saw an explosion of people going to prison under a Democratic president. We saw the 3 strikes rule under a Democratic president. Now, don't misconstrue what I'm saying, that I'm telling you to go out here and vote Republican. I firmly don't believe in partyism anyways. I try to listen to the person, what they have to say, what they believe in, and then that influences either me voting or me not voting at all. Yes, I have totally not voted. I did not vote in the election between current president and Hillary Clinton. To me, both of them are disgusting individuals. So I didn't even choose between. I don't believe in choosing between the lesser of two evils. That's my own personal conviction. I don't believe in choosing between the lesser of two evils. I didn't like the current president's means of consistently disrespecting people of all kinds, regardless of color, race, gender, sexual preference. Yeah. And Clinton, yeah, that's just not even gonna go into that. Destabilizing African countries. Yeah, we're not leaving power vacuums for slavery to happen in Africa. Yeah. That's a conversation for off of the radio, right? Because I don't really get into politics too much here. But you look at the charisma, because this is the gun violence issue as a means of taking weapons from people. And really, when we talk about the people whose weapons get removed, we're not talking about white communities, because white people are not going to let that happen. They're not going to let that happen. And it's nothing wrong with that. I really commend them. And I think we that are impoverished, we that are poor, we that are of color kind of need to take the same attitude. I believe in having guns as a means of protecting yourself, or if the government gets far too out of control, we got to make a choice. Either we're going to perish or we're going to survive. Tough choice. It's tough. Either we're going to perish or we're going to survive. But for me and mine, yeah. Nobody's just finna roll up in my house and tell me that they're going to shoot me through my door. That's not going to happen. That's firmly not going to happen. I don't want to take anybody's life. That's not what I'm living for. But I will protect mine, and I will protect the people that I care about. My home is my castle, the only place in this world where I have peace. I go out into the streets And I see trouble on this side of the street, trouble on the other side of the street, problems, 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 issues, issues, issues. My home is the only place where I have any level of privacy, somewhat, and peace. And I refuse to have it be a point to where I'm also in my household and I'm terrified there too. Let's look at gun violence in schools. It's never the gangsters, right? It's never the young black men who people are always calling thugs and miscreants and denizens of the ghetto. It's never them that are going into these schools and shooting up multiple people. Has anybody ever stopped and asked themselves why? Why is it that these young kids from poor communities are not the ones that are going into the schools and shooting them up? Why? And who is? Are we ready for the truth? It's young white men. It's young white men. Just like when you look at the majority of domestic terrorist attacks, it's not guys with turbans. Okay? That's not been the history of terrorist attacks here in the United States of America. It's been white men of all kinds, from the Native Americans passing blankets of smallpox to even now, the police officer who will shoot a black man running in the back. It's not little black boys doing this. Why? Most of them are terrified already of the communities that they live in. A lot of them are having to live adult lives. I just don't think people understand. And part of the reason why I understand is not because I lived in the hood the majority of my life. Because Highland Park was kind of, it was, I guess some people would have said that it was the hood. There's levels to this. It wasn't the ghetto, but it was still what other people would call the hood. I always thought it was a nice neighborhood. It just got nicer and less affordable to live in. But the young men that you often see on television, and it's not to excuse their behavior at a certain point, but I understand, and Mike Steele has talked about it before, the reason for gangs and stuff like that in Philadelphia was to protect yourself and your homies from other people, right? And then when you look at places like the city of Chattanooga, when they tore down housing projects where we had gangs in certain areas. And so it used to be a situation. And I know people who are older than me who will confirm this. If you wanted to really mess with somebody in the city of Chattanooga, you really had to go 20 to 30 minutes out of your way to do it. And so if you went from North Chattanooga to the South Side, which is about a 20-minute drive, you intentionally went out there to cause trouble or to start some drama. And so now, because they've torn down all the housing projects and shifted people out of neighborhoods and got people who never lived in certain areas, and now they've gotten pushed out of their neighborhoods, they have to live. We have gangs and people intermixing in neighborhoods that never lived there before. You see, part of this is, oh man. Good morning. Talk to me.
Miss Mary, you know we cannot walk around in Chattanooga with some automatic rifle weapons protecting and trying to police against the Chattanooga police. Come on, girl, you are causing for a riot.
Look,
I understand we be all right, for arms, but come on, you know better than that.
Look.
I ain't trying to start no argument with you, but you know better than that.
Who is this calling? I just want to hear your name.
Huh?
Who is this calling? I just want to know your name.
DJ.
DJ, thank you so much for calling, DJ. Look, I'm not trying to start no mess. And I'm not encouraging people to go out with weapons. I'm just encouraging you not to give them up. You heard what I'm saying? So, DJ, did you hear that? I'm not encouraging you because we're not living in the same times. Good morning. Talk to me. Hello? All right. We're not living in the 70s anymore. Yes. You roll around with guns just on your person's automatic weapons as a person of color, or even just as a person that looks poor. I don't even know what poor looks like, but I'm just saying maybe from the minds of people who just look down on other people. You look poor. Yeah, you are asking for trouble. What I'm encouraging you to not do is to buy into this liberalistic garbage that the people who are often the poor, the impoverished, and the most targeted people in America need to give up their weapons of warfare. No, sir. No, ma'am. It is your constitutional right. Now, you do have a right to bear those arms. Now, the thing that I would encourage is that if you're going to do things like that, it needs to be as a means of protecting other citizens, such as case in point. Now, this could be very tricky. I'm just saying. And, you know, I saw it on Facebook. It was a Caucasian man pushing and trying to assault a pregnant woman of color. And a man walked up and he said, "Hey, you need to take a step back, sir. Hey, she's pregnant. You know, you're hurt. You can hurt her or the child." The guy was just insistent. All he did was just pull up his shirt. And the guy saw he was packing. He didn't pull it out, but he let him know, "Hey, I'm not walking up to this just as a citizen trying to protect my neighbor, but I'm ready in the event that I got to protect this helpless woman who's pregnant. I got her. She's going to walk away from this. You not. So you just need to back on up." I guess the question that I have for the people is, and in particular, anyone of color, are we going to continue to just allow ourselves to get whooped upside our heads? And then when we look at these instances which have happened where our women have been raped, our women have been brutalized, and then it happened to a 14-year-old, I guess, yes. Again, what can we do for the organizations who want to wear against guns and all this other kind of stuff? This is going to offend some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. White people have the luxury of giving up their guns because they're not being targeted. We don't have that luxury. And I'm sorry we got to wrap it up. We don't have that luxury, folks. We got to protect ourselves and our communities. That's for everybody. This is a right that should never be infringed upon. Don't buy into the garbage. Gun violence is not the issue. Lack of resources is really the problem. Gun violence is not the issue. It's parents who are raising their children to get whatever they want and being spoiled brats. Y'all know what it is. Marine with the Marine Mott Show. I love you guys. If no one has told you that they love you today, I love you. There's nothing that you can do about it. Y'all make sure y'all have a good weekend.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Democratic candidate Steve Foster is running against Republican Tom Graves from behind bars. He's